Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to BA Zone's live show. We had no time for a pre-show because Marianne's feeling a little under the weather today, so we're going to try to get through this without a tissue break. But welcome tonight. We're going to be talking about accessibility, but before we get to that, let's Kathleen. Actually, I'll introduce myself. I'm Marianne Morrison, and the woman behind the scenes is Kathleen Sinnott. We are the BA Zone together. So, Kathleen, if you'll roll the intro, we'll get started for tonight. Everybody sit back, get a cup of tea, put your feet up, and relax. Here we go.
Okay, actually, I need you to vamp for a second because Facebook failed. I'm going to try to get it live while you're still live. Hang on one sec.
Oh. And we up anywhere else?
Facebook we're up everywhere else. I don't know why it failed, but because...
we have to give Kathleen a second because Facebook has just failed on us. So I'll ad-lib for just a little bit. Did you ever clean out your garage without a mask? Well, that's what I did this past weekend, and that's why I've been sneezing my head off ever since. So don't do that. But tonight we are going to be talking about accessibility, specifically around accessibility in web design, but everywhere else as well, too. And as soon as I get the go-ahead from Kathleen, we'll move forward with that. Hopefully everybody's having a great week other than that. And let's see what's going on.
Okay, it looks like we're good. So I will run the intro and then you can just dive in, okay?
Okay.
Sound good?
Sounds good. So Facebook is back up, or we're doing the intro, right? So let's do the intro and I'll just dive right in. Thanks, Kathleen.
Oops. Maybe I should do the right intro.
It's the disco intro. Okay, everybody, here we go.
Oh, wait a second. Okay, so everything's just fighting back. So just
we're having with live streaming TV technical difficulties. There we go, and we are off and running, talking tonight about accessibility. So before we get started, if you know anyone who might be interested in this topic, please feel free to pass us along. And if you have any questions or comments during the show, please feel free to put those in as well, and we'll answer them for you on air. Okay, accessibility. When we're talking about accessibility at its highest level, it's about designing and creating products, websites, devices, services, or environments for people with disabilities. But it's really about so much more than that. It's about removing barriers to communication, giving everyone an opportunity to participate. And it benefits all of us. So, disabilities come in all types and a wide range and variety of them. From an IT perspective, when we don't design with accessibility in mind, we're excluding a wide group of people with disabilities or special needs that could be congenital, they could be semi-permanent, permanent, a result of a disease or an injury. So, it runs the gamut of hearing impairments that could be just hard of hearing all the way through deafness, visual impairments, which like me are poor eyesight, low vision, partial or complete blindness, and color blindness as well. There's speech impairments that can run from slow speech to stuttering to different types of speech patterns that are difficult for voice recognition systems to understand. There could be cognitive impairments that could affect your memory, your attention span. They could result from head injuries, autism, developmental disabilities, or learning disabilities like dyslexia or ADHD. There could be neurological seizure disorders or epilepsy or physical impairments that affect the motor or the dexterity or the fine muscle control. That could be due to tremors, paralysis, cerebral palsy, even carpal tunnel syndrome can have an effect on that. And, over the years, and, I come from a period when before there was a lot of accessibility improvements. And over the years, a lot of these accessibility improvements have sort of merged with usability best practices, and it provides benefits to everyone. You know, it's not just folks with disabilities or types of impairments. Accessibility today goes way beyond just wheelchair ramps that were put in place. You know, it affects people. It has benefited and affected everyone in the form of mobile phones, smartwatches, TVs, and other devices with smaller screens, bigger screens, different input modes. Voice recognition. I mean, where would we be without talking into our telephone and getting an answer? You know, people are living longer, and they're faced with a lot of changing abilities or capabilities. My mother, for example, is 91, and without an e-reader where she can adjust the size of the text, she'd be lost. So, and the same goes with audiobooks. You could have temporary disabilities. You know, you could break your arm, you could lose your glasses, break a leg, you know, have something happen to your hearing temporarily. If you go to a lot of concerts, that could become a permanent issue as well. And there's different types of situational disorders or limitations, such as being able to read in bright sunlight or in an environment where you can't hear or listen to audio. You could also be dealing with, you know, slow internet connections in rural areas or limited bandwidth in developing countries. So all of these things that I'm talking about have been improved due to accessibility issues. So we've all benefited from a lot of these changes that have come to pass. And if we live long enough, we will continue to benefit from them as well. And if that's not enough to get you designing and planning for accessibility in your product or your software, think about this. Accessibility is often required by law in a lot of situations. So you've got to be up on your, you know, your government 508, especially if you work for the government. But there are laws in place all across now, and they're becoming international laws as well too, to provide accessibility to everyone, especially where the World Web is concerned. Let's just take a little, I just have to take a little sip of water and check and see what's going on in the back end. Kathleen, I don't hear her laughing anywhere. Okay, so let's keep going here. So what are some of the things that you need to, from a business analyst perspective, do you need to include in requirements? And also if you want to test for compliance for accessibility. The web accessibility refers to removing all types of barriers that prevent interaction with or access to websites at all different levels. So, but at a minimum, there are some things as BAs that we can include in our requirements, wireframes, comps, and testing to provide some of this accessibility. And I mean, you can really go far if your product or company is really going down the line of total inclusiveness. There are many, many more things that you can do. I'm just going to highlight a few things that are actually, we may do it all the time, but we don't think about it as being as an accessibility type of compliant rule. So I'll just go through a couple of them. And if you have any, please share with us that you've come across. So for example, the simplest and most consistent navigation is the way to go, because that way we can add assistive devices or interactive devices without a whole lot of development going on. And the same is true with content. If it's written in plain language, and also if we can illustrate it with instructional diagrams or animations, it helps people with learning disabilities. It helps people with dyslexia to better understand our content. So simple things like that, written in plain language that can easily be converted to text to voice or text to speech is very helpful. If you have content and it's a lot of content, try to break it out by bullets. Everybody pretty much does this anyway because we all seem to want to get to the answer quicker. But it's really helpful when we have more bulleted lists for people who may lose focus or have cognitive issues, that they can stay in the moment with those little bulleted pieces of content without becoming distracted. If you use any type of media or multimedia on your website, for example, if you use video, flash, or audio, you always want to have an alternative media to go with that, just in case someone can't see the video or can't hear the audio, that they can bounce back and forth and still get the information that they need and the access to understand your product, your content, or your services. If you use text and images, you want to make those either large or enlargeable, like I said, with the e-readers where you can change the font. It's easier for people with poor eyesight to read and understand your content. If you have clickable links, so this is one that Kathleen and I talk about all the time. If you have a clickable link, make sure that that clickable link is large enough so that people who have motor control issues with a mouse and don't have that precision, even the elderly, and even us sometimes, we can't quite get it on that line. Make them big enough that that clickable area can easily be gotten to. And also, in addition to just adding a color to the link, make sure you either underline a link or use some other type of image to display that it is a link, because there are many people who are colorblind. So if you just give them a color, they're not going to know that that's a link. And that's a big one for Kathleen and I over the years. We've always included that. If you have videos, if they could be in closed captioned, or if you could use sign language, if you can make it a version that's available, deaf or hard of hearing users will be able to understand the video. And if you're using a lot of websites today, we want to get people's attention. So we tend to use a lot of flashy images or flashing type of video. And this can really affect people who have seizure disorders. Any type of strobe or flashing lights can cause a seizure in someone who is prone to seizures or epilepsy. So you want to either give them, if there's a lot of flashing, a warning and the ability to maybe shut that off, so that we're not putting anybody at risk with, trying to be really on the edge out there. Functionality as well should be accessible through a mouse or a keyboard, and it should be tagged so that it works with other assistive technologies such as screen readers or magnifiers, voice input, or an adapted keyboard. So those are just some of the things we can do as business analysts. It's just a few of them. There's plenty of other ways to set up the layout of your system and the design of your system to be more inclusive. And that's what we're all trying to do. Excuse me. As far as testing goes, there's a lot of software out there that you can run your software through to see if it is compliant. Some of them are probably better than others. Some of the more well-known ones, and it's debatable, people have said whether they truly test the experience of the user, but you could run it through the W3C, which is the World Wide Web Consortium, has software, and they maintain the international standards for technical specifications, guidelines, techniques for accessibility solutions. Excuse me. And you can just, a lot of them, you can run your software through. Adobe has different software. You can also try manually running it through like the Section 508, which is, it was an amendment to the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, that it was a federal law that mandated the electronic and information technology that was developed or procured or maintained is accessible to people with disabilities. So there is software out there, or you can just print the guidelines and manually walk through the website and see what's applicable and what's not, and what you may want to add to the website so that it's more inclusive. Okay, so I'll take one little quick break right here. and see what's going on. Oh, hi, Adam. Adam is out on Periscope, and John is on Facebook. How you doing out there? And let's see, Adam on Facebook has, ooh, like this, find our show helpful. Yes, Kathleen's putting stuff across the promo across the bottom. Adam on Periscope asks, how do I find this segment of our market? The answer is, surveys and Q&A logs. Just assume that they're there. Kathleen's responded to some of these. So for folks who may want, a broader information on this, and how to engage people with accessibility issues and get them on board as a subject matter expert. Ask around the floor for volunteers, or do surveys, or local groups, or testing services that can have a pool of people. These are some of the ways that you can engage people with accessibility issues. And there's plenty of groups out on, Facebook and other social medias out there, so you can hook people up. I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm starting to lose my voice. I want to welcome everybody out there who's on Facebook and Periscope, and we do appreciate all your hearts and clapping and all those fun things you guys send out. We really do appreciate it. We do this for you as well. And if you're looking where to find us, Kathleen usually throws that up for me on the screen. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Periscope. You can always get us on the bazone.com. And you can also sign up for our newsletter. And honestly, we really won't do anything at all with your information except let you know what's coming on up and classes that are available. We have a couple classes out there on our site right now, so feel free to take a look at those. And and that's, I think we're good for right now on anything else. So let's just try to wrap this up before my voice goes completely out. We have 2 more minutes. We're staying pretty good on schedule tonight. How do you get your team on board regarding the accessibility? You want to try to implement these best practices, the accessibility best practices, because you're also improving, the usability of the site. You're encompassing more users out there, potential buyers for your product, whatever it is. There's customers out there, they're untapped because they cannot use your site. And that's one thing. It's a social, if it doesn't get you as a social good, you're pretty much designing a website for your future self, for your parents, for your patients, whatever that might be. There are people out there who might be the next Stephen Hawking, right? Where would he be without all of the technology that helped support him for so many years and let him communicate? And it was valuable content. There's so many people out there who we can pull in socially, who we can get great ideas from. It's a ton of untapped talent because they can't access a lot of the system. So we want to make sure that we can do that from, just to make the planet a greater place. We're trying to everybody to get together, everybody communicate, and we'll all be better off for it. And if we live long enough, we are technology junkies. So if that doesn't support us in our older age, or God forbid something happens to us, that would be, some people live with that their entire life, right? So we want to make sure that we're always, always, always inclusive. And and that would be making our sites as accessible as possible from a design perspective and requirements and testing. So that's what we have tonight for accessibility. There's plenty of articles out there if you want to read up more on it. It's a great subject. It's a very interesting line or career if you want to go in that direction. So please feel free to look up additional resources on that. So to wrap up tonight, I've taken a lot of Benadryl for my cold, and I just may fall asleep on you any minute. So we're going to wrap this up. We just wanted to tell you next week, I believe, and Kathleen will definitely back me up. I think next week is our anniversary show. I believe it is our anniversary show. Yes, we've been on the air for 1 year. So we hope you'll join us for that. That should be interesting in light of what just happened tonight. If we have any goofs or snafus, maybe we could pull those together for you. So it's always fun here on the bazone.com. Also, actually, we have a book. Kathleen is just reminding me, I'm sorry, that we have a book called A Book Apart site up with the accessibility for everyone. There it is right there. And this can get you up to speed quickly. It's a great book, accessibility for everyone. So it's a site. You can go there and you can get that book. We have no affiliation with that book, just to let you know, but it is a really interesting read. So that'll give you a lot of great information too, if you're interested. So that's it for this evening. And Kathleen, I don't know if you're there, if you have any other reminders, or if not, I will leave everybody and say have a fantastic night. I would just want to give it a second, because sometimes if I don't, we cut people off at the very end who've been shy the entire show and then jump on. So we'll just give it one quick section, but we're all good. It looks like we're all good. So again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget to show up next Tuesday for our anniversary show, and take care and have a great night, everybody. Thanks so much. Good night.